viewers, in this video, we're going to talk about the 2015 movie Mad Max Fury Report. We'll discuss the movie story, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we'll cover some movie production details and box office performance. Fanley will provide a review and share some personal reactions. Let's begin with the movie story. Max Roxani was once a cop and rot warrior trekking through post-apocalypse Australia, running from the heart and thoughts of his dead wife and child and the other dead people he's encountered. A two-heady lizard crawled up near Max and he stomped on it before eating it. He drives off and is quickly pursued by a group of sequenters called the War Boys, who are all pale and covered in blisters due to sickness. They chase me through the desert and cause him to crash before they capture him. The War Boys take Max to their location and shave his head and face. They tattoo his back and try to use him as a blood bag, since he is a sheer blood donor. Max is nearly branded with an image of a skull engulfed on fire until he breaks free and runs from the War Boys. Max continues to see the image of the dead before he makes into exit the high above the ground. He jumps out and latches into a hook that keeps swimming in the direction of the War Boys, and they manage to pull him back toward them. In the Citadel, there is a large committee of survivors, lorded over by the large of the War Boys, Immortal Joe. Joe wears a glow-stick face mark made of horsey to help him breathe. He supplies the people with some water, making everyone go crazy and fight for it once Jaws shut it off. He wants the people not to become addicted to water so that they do not go mad over his absence. He then sends his commander-operator Furiosa out in a huge war to collect gasoline from Gastown, along with a group of War Boys on the road. Fioa diverts from the park to Gastown and heads east. Joe is alerted to the movement and runs into his chamber where he keeps his 5 wives. Women choose to breed his children. Nobody is there, but he finds writing that say, "Our children will not be warlords and who killed the world." An old woman stands alone telling Joe that he cannot own a woman. Fiona is taking the women away from Joe, prompting him to rally the War Boys and go after her. One of the War Boys, Tanox, is using Max as his blood bag, and he jumps at the J to go after Fioa, so that Joe can bring him to the gears of Valhalla. The War Boys ride after the rig. Nex stabs Mac to the hold of his car and eagerly chases Fioa alongside the others. They attempt to get close to the rig, but Ferosa shakes most of them. Nex gets close to Riggs as Max attempts to break free. Fioa drive towards a huge oncoming sandstorm. Nex continues to chase after her, even as they head into Tricius and Trundus. War Boys get killed in the sandstorm, while NX and Max are spun out of control, causing them to crash. Max awakens to find himself still chained to an unconscious Nex. He grabs a ref and tries to shoot off the next wrist, but the gun is jammed. He walks around the rig to see the women supplanted on guard toss the knowing, capable Chio, the fragile, and the Dag cleaning himself with the horse, as Guard is 9-month-old, pregnant with a child, and the dog is also carrying his baby. Max holds the ruffle at the women for them to give up the water. He suppresses a bunch of water in his mouth and then mixes them together to break off his chin. Doc tries to, but cannot break it. Frosa sees from the distance that Joe has gathered reinforcement from the other town that supplies gas and ammunition to the Citadel, led by the Pupil Eater and the Bullet Farmer. Max and Fota fight as he tries to break himself off from Nex. Nex wakes up and helps Max fight. Nex breaks off the Chen and Max tries to take the rig for himself. However, it starts because Frosa installed a kill switch, and only she knows how to keep it going. Max lets her back on the rig, but he doesn't want to take the rest of the women. Fioa insists that they join him as she is guarding the women to a location from her youth, called the Green Place. They ride off while Next sneaks drop board. Fios drives off the rig up to a cannon, where a group of bikers manage to wait for their payment in the gasoline. This, poor Joe and his forces coming in close. Fioa drives the rig away, while the bikers blow up the overpass to block Joe out. Another chase, and short, the boys keep trying to overtake the rig, while Joe is catching up faster. He attempts to shoot at the rig until Scars step out as a human shield, and Joe cannot do a thing without hurting his potential son. Nu attempts to help Joe, who suppressed chrome paint or neck and mouth with the promise of bringing him to the gates of Valhalla if Nex succeeds. Almost immediately, Nux loses his gun in front of Joe, who continues driving with disappointment, and God tries climbing back to the front of the rig, but she fails off and is run over by Joe's car. The women tell Max to turn back, but when he tells Fioa that Angod went under the wheels, Fioa says they must keep going. The other cries for Angard's next break back into the rift with the promise of helping the women awake. He lays on the floor distraught that he feared Joette again and has lost his chance of joining his personal army. Capable sits and cons him. At the front, Fioa tells Max of the Green Place and how she was taken from it as a child. As they continue driving throughout the night, Derek gets stuck in a big world pile. The bullet farm is not from behind. Max shoots at him, but misses, and then Proa gets a clean shot, taking out the bullet farmer's light and blinding him. Myra was Joe's ultimate slit takes and god parties, as she is near death, and he cuts the baby out of her stomach. The baby is dead too, but he tells Joe that it was a boy. Joe tells his son Rectus that he had a brother who screams proudly. The women continue to try to get the rig out of the mud wheel. Next goes out of the face of the bullet farmer himself. He returns with the bullet farmers brought on his face, along with a nice ply of the guns and ammo. In the morning, there comes up to a tower where a naked woman, the Valkyrie, is screaming. Max thinks it's a trap, but Frosa steps out and tells Valkyrie her mother's name and her affiliation with the clan. The Valkyrie clamps down the tower and put on a robe. More elder women, the Valkyrie, emerge. The old keeper of the seeds recognize Fioa. She tells them that she is taking the women to the Green Place, but the keeper of the seeds informed that the Buddhist from the Pastra was the Green Place, and it is unbiblical. Ferosa walks into and falls on her knees, screaming in despair. The Walini agreed to help the women ride through the sword fats in search of a home. Max, still haunted by the image of his wife and child, decided to help the women go back to the citadels, since Joe's greenery and water supply, and currently unguarded. They also plan to trap him and his army in the cannons. The whole group rides back in the direction of the citadels. Joe sees them riding from the telescope, knowing full well their plan is. He gathered his army and give chase. The Walini held fight back. The Valkyrie shoots at the war boys while defending one of her own until she is run over. Max and Frosa kill some of the war boys, while Max gets Joe to kill the pupil eater by using him as a human shield. The keeper of the seeds is also killed when one of the war boys cuts her neck. Toss is captured by Joe and Haw hostage. Fioa is impaled and gets weaker as Joe and Russ gain momentum. Toss distracts Joe long enough to get Fioa an opportunity to hook Jaw's mask onto the wheels of his car. She growls, "Remember me," to him as the wheels up trying to kill the group. The rig then heads towards the cannon, with Ricard still trying to kill the group. The women get off safety while Nex says goodbye to Capable and steps against the cannon, sacrificing himself to kill Rectus and collapse the overpass to put an end to Jaw's army. On the way back to the Citadel's Ferosa's lungs nearly collapse. Max punctured a hole in her side to give her an air. She starts to lose consciousness, and Max starts to give her blood transfusions. He tells her his name as she closes her eyes. The group arrives at the Citadel's. Max presents the people with Jaw's mouthless corpse, making everyone cheer. The ripped Joes apart and feed of him. The water supply is brought out, giving the people as much water as they need. Fioa rises and apparently become the new leader. She and Max acknowledge each other with respects one more before he slips away into the crowd to continue down his own path. Now let's talk about the complete cast of the Mad Max Fury Road 2015. Tom Hardy as Max, Charlize Theron as Imperator Ferosa, Nicholas Hoult as New, Huge Kiss, Brian as Immortan Joe, Josh Elman as Slit, Nathan John as Rectus, Rusi looked on as the Splendid Angered, Zoe Kravitz as To the Knowing, Riley Thaw as Capable, Rocky Eaton as Due to the 4G, Richard F. Byrne as the Bullet Farmer, Angel Sampson as the Organic Mechanic, Megan Gale as the Valkyrie, Matissa Vick as the Walini, Gallian Johns as the Walini, Melissa Jaffer as Keeper of the Seeds, Jennifer Hagen as Miss Kitty, Luta as the Doof Warrior, John Howard as the Pupil Eater, Abelie as the Dag, Melita Jurassic as the Wavalini, Joyce Mether as the Wavalini, Odney Corman as the Wavalini, Christiana Coach the Wavalini, Quentin Kahan as the Corpus Coulson, Kasparon as Marsov, Satify as the Rock Rider Chief, Coco Jacklies as Glory the Child, Vice and Roxboss as Imperator, Ben Smith Peterson as Chanting Ward Boys, Richard Norton as the Prime Imperator, John Walton as Imperator, Rose Malkin as Bloodshed Y, Elizabeth Onico as Mike Brother, Robert John as Ripture Driver, Darren Andrew Mitchell as Black Mask. Now let me provide you the short biography of the main cast. The first one is Sherry Tone, born August 7, 1975 in Benoni, South Africa, is a South African-born actress who was noticed for her visuality and earned an Academy Award for Best Actress for her performance as real-life serial killer in Monster 2003. Theon grew up on a farm near Benoni, South Africa, at the age 13. Wanting to continue her bullet studies, she began attending a boarding school that specialized in the arts. During a visit home when she was 15, her mother shot and killed her father in self-defense after being attacked by him while he was drunk. At age 16, Theon moved to Milan to work as a model. 2 years later, he settled in New York City, where she continued to model and began studying at the Joffrey Ball School. A knee injury ended her chances for a career in dance. However, as she attempted unsuccessfully to pursue acting jobs, Theon eventually moved to Hollywood, and while making a loud scene after a bank refuses to cash a check, she was discovered by an agent. She subsequently began netting some small parts, which of one is 2 Days in the Valley. 1996 gained her favorable notice and paved the way of her first lead in The Devil's Advocate 1997. The film show cast her acting ability and visuality and lead to the further substitute roles, notability in Mighty Joe Jang, 1998 Celebrity, 1998 The Cider House Rules, 1999, and The Italian Job 2003. Her acting talent was further expressed in her award-winning performance as serial killer Aline Former in Monsters. Impression in the role she became almost unrecognizable thanks partly to her nearly party weight gain, helped her become the first African to win an acting Oscar. Theron appeared in 2 movies in 2004, The Life and Death of Bieber Steelers and The Head in the Clouds. Her performance as a meaner battling sexual harassment in North Country 2005 earned Theron an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress. She subsequently appeared in the drama In the Valley of Ella 2007, the superhero movie Hancock 2008, and The Road 2009, an adaptation of Comic Mercury post-apocalyptic novel of the same name. In A Dreamy Young Adult 2011, Theron started a wealthfully immature woman who returns to her hometown in pursuit of high school sweetheart. She unveiled the screen as the evil queen in the dark fairy tale adaptation Snow White and the Huntsman 2012, and its sequels The Huntsman Winter War 2016. Her character is the sacrifice thrill Promatic. 2010, the lead of a Saint adaptation was similarly Ice, and a Precious Letters roles a Combs, who was just Sheepherd played by Sith Lord in the sport A Million Ways to Die in the West 2014 Imperator Fossa, Honor on a mission to save a group of enslaved women in Mad Max Fury 2015, and Lobby Day, a woman in Brutal, of murder of her family in Dark Places 2015. An adaptation of the thriller by Galani Flynn in the animation Kobo and The Too Strange 2016. Theron provided the voice for a swordly monkey in 2017. He started the action thrill The Fate of the Furious, the 8th film in the Fast and Furious series, and Atomic Blonde, in which he played a British spy. Theron's films in 2018 include the dark comedy Gringo, about a paramedical company executive who was kidnapped by members of drug cartel in Mexico, the truly of which she enthuses reviews of her uncompromising betrayal of an overall mother of 3. The L started in the romantic comedy Long Shot 2019, playing a U.S. Secretary of State who is planning on running for president. Her other credits from 2019 included Bombshell, a talk drama about the sexual harem scandal that led Roger Alliance to resign as president of the Fox News Channel for her performance as Megyn Kelly in the film. Theron received her 3rd Oxford nomination. She then appears in the action movies The Old God 2020, about a group of immortal mercenaries, in F9 The Fast Saga 2021, an installment in the Fast and Furious series. During this time, she also voiced the Matria in the animated comedy The Addams Family 2019 and its 2021 sequel. Our second main character is Nicole Hoult as K.N. born December 7, 1989, Wokingham. Perky, England, is a British actor who is perhaps best known for playing Hank McCoy Beast in the X-Men series of the movies, and Nux in the Mad Max Fury Road 2015. Hoult was the grandnephew of British state and screen star drama and an Eagle. His father was a commercial pilot. His mother taught piano, as the 3 siblings all had acting experience. As the 8 of 3 Hoult at transfers and watching his brother James performing the play, and was discovered by the director of that production, who remarked that if he could concentrate on watching a play, then he could be in one. Horn made his feature film Debit in Anti-Maid Revelation, 1996, but it was his second film about a boy, 2002, made when he was 20 years old. He brought his international attention in the comedy, which was based on a novel by Nick Harbin. He portrayed Near Child with Vlandi Brew, who is taken under the wing of an unlikely mentor, played by Hugh Grant. Horse's career as a child actor was brief, however, because in the span of 3 years, he grew to a height of 6, Feet 3 in as a teen, he portrayed heartless heartthrob Tony Sturmer in the British TV drama Skins, before American fashion designer Tom Hart lured him to Hollywood to appear in 4 Directions, A Single Man 2009. Hall started opposite Colin Firth as a charming college student who uses his power to draw out a driving and closest gay man. In 2013, he appeared as a zombie in One Bodies. Horror's first action film was Clash of the Titans in 2010. He then physically transformed himself beyond recognition to play the Beast in X-Men First Class, 2011, X-Men Days of the Future Past 2014, and X-Men Apollo Caps 2016. He underwent another transmission for us in George Miller's Mad Max Food 2015 in The Frederick Thrilled. He was cast as New, a bald-headed pacifist war boy and fanatic follower in the army of Venius Immortan Joe in 2015. Halt also started the Christian starred in Equal about a young pupil who began a forward romance in the portraitic study in which the development of failing single deadly disease and vanished. Hard later film credit include the British action Thrilled, in which he portrayed an American backpacker who becomes involved the duck smuggler after getting a job at their driver. The Sandcastle Bar 2016 about the Iraq War. In Rebel in the Ray 2017, he started as Digi Slanger, author of The Catcher in the Ray, continued to show his vitality. Hard played an 18th century politician in The Favorite 2018, a historical drama about the Queen Court. During this time, he also lent his voice to the animation TV ministries Worship Town 2018, which was based on Richard Adams' beloved children book Heart's Credit from 2018, include the bottom talking about the early years of the Fame writer. The following year, he appeared in The Banker, playing the frontman of 2 African enterprises in 1950s. In 2020, Hall returned to the television with a debut of 2 series, the great affectionized dramas about the rise of Catherine the Great and Crossing Sword, an animated comedy in which he bowed a piece to become a sequel. He then played a killer haunting a young boy in the action thrill Those Who Wish Me Dead, 2021. In The Menu 2022, Hall portrays a prodigious 40. The box office performance of Mad Max Fury, wrote Warner Brothers. Time Warner just sent out a press release proclaiming the above box office milestone. So yes, Mad Max Fury Road has indeed crossed the $300 million worldwide mark at the global box office. The film has earned $125.1 million in the U.S. and $177 million overseas, giving the Tom Hardy-Cheryl Throne release a $3.2 million worldwide K. The film opened 4 Fridays ago with a rebate $45.4 million domestic opening as a $109 million worldwide B. The film is opened in the most of its market, with the film set to open in the Japan on June 20th. We all like to talk about China as the big corner of overseas market, but Japan is no clutch either as a production budget of $150 million. Conventional wisdom in the film is now basically in the safe break-even zone, where it would be benefit starting to seek in the $375 million mark. I like to use 2.x the budget as a journal safe zone for actual or eventual profit, but of course even movies and different, so pursuing it, continue. It legacy worldwide. Run George Miller's 4th Mad Max installment is a solid hit. The success of Mad Max Fury Road is something of a double-edged sword. One hand, it's critically acclaimed outrage masterpiece that offers eye-opening practical action and stern work, as well as the kind of gabber party that is all to relay seen in the mainstream cinema, that the film basically cast J. Rice Thorland and not Tom Hardy as the action lead. and there would be progress in the story that is explicitly about the real haunt to men and women because of gender suppression and particular role in old news by now, and we all know about the various men's right activities who protected the film. We stopped Lee gave a national performance so we could feel superior by sweating down the low-hanging fruit. But I disagree. Of course, even with all of the celebrity over the facts and the DEA of Fidosa, collapses and fan action spin of hopes still to come. It's not like one action film is going to solve the problems of ingrained agent aberration. And it be as far from here and abroad, any more than the Oscar dreamer of 12 Years a Slave magically saw recents in America. But the film's success hopefully signaled to those who could make creative decisions in Hollywood that the so-called conventional wisdom about females in big budget action film is merely conventional wisdom rather than substantial fact. Hopefully it will have a positive effect beyond just resulting in Cheryl Stone playing Captain Marvel as said Roma of fan casting. At the very least, this might help get the Academy to start recognizing the haunting stunt people as a nest to garnish Oscar category. The best new to the extent that the box office tribe of a beloved new action classic is a bad thing in the Mad Max Fury. Rose also represent a successful example of Hollywood taking a ridicule old property and rebooting it for today's audience. Yes, in that case it was a passion project by the original directors. Yes, in this case the summer flavor of the month male lead Tom Hardy box office drama of Child 44. And his means was playing a glorified sporting role in a somewhat similar manner to Keanu Reeves. In 74 Reen and Just Mad, Max Fury is the best movie of the year, thus far, original tighter action, Bond Discus as a franchise rehash, but the success of Mad Max Fury Road will likely only lead to more 80s and naughty properties being remade or rebooted properly of the Edge brand awareness. Hollywood has a terrible habit of learning the wrong lesson from the success. This is an industry that saw success of Delight and Green Lit. I am number 4 at the Saw, the success of Inception, and decided to remake Total Recall. I honestly shudder to think about the results of Mad Max. Fury Road's relative box office victory will be, but that's conventional for other day. Warner Brothers Margaret getting divorced a solid day for the head of this one. This could have easily been something skin of Cowboys and Alien. Although, to be fair, the film was justly banned by critics and Greeks to its release. The question becomes whether the far geeks only roti like Groalsism. The word is a fragment of recent past, whereby Greek culture is now so ingrained into the mainstream that the likes of Mad Max Fury Road are Kingsmen. The Secret Service are now more likely to be exception rather than the rule. But there's a question that I do not know the answer to, so for the moment let us celebrate a really good film on its way to a rather solid box office total. It's not out of the woods yet. Has not even passed at $367 million of the too expensive, but not really a flop age of tomorrow, but the legs are here and a broad point to solid and figure. Japan is the wild card at this possibility of a China Re at some point, but for now the news is good, and the film already tripling its debit figure in America and about to triple its worldwide opening as well. Mad Max Fury Road is an unconscionably good movie that has thus far found eventually solid box office result to the choose to celebrate, and once again remind everyone that Warner Bros. Is more than just Harry Potter and DC Comics movies. Full cast and crew of the movie. Production management. Andrea Buckler as unit manager. George Buckel as production manager. Dean Hood as unit production manager. Jason Pronto as director of production. Terry Lynn Robertson as production manager. Matt Town as post-production supervisor. Ashish Koken as production manager. Line Annie Wow as production manager. Alan Shears Air as production manager. Paul Ranford as unit production manager. Gavin Jenkins as unit manager. Namibia Prep. Sally French as supervising unit production manager. Brandon Mose as unit manager. Makeup department. Tara Early as additional makeup artist. Klein Amradis as personal hairstylist. May Berman as assistant makeup artist. Kapal as hairstylist. Dawn Broker as special makeup, effect artist. Alisa Konkna as makeup artist. Rachel Conan as special makeup effects artist. Nua Silva as makeup artist. Andrea Doa as makeup artist. Troy Finkton as hairstylist. John Franchise as additional hairstylist. Lee Grain as graphic designer specialty titles. Kayla Harrison as special makeup effect artist. Wright Hurd as makeup assistants. Matthew Hobart as prosthetic artist. Adam Johansson as prosthesis makeup coordinator. Adam Key as senior wood mapper. Marilee Crocker as makeup artist. Kimberly Lever as daily prosthetic artist. Marielle Mikurai as prosthetic makeup artist. Jalank Muller as makeup department runner. Ethan Bogart Stearns as makeup artist. Roshir Onadis as proactive makeup artist. Christiana Peterson as contact lens designer. Nadine Bridge as hair supervisor. Jess Reese as senior prosthetic artist. Ollie Robertson as makeup attachment. Andron Smith as DOE supervisor. Jaco Sion as senior prosthetic artist. Emily Strad as hair supervisor. Veda Workshop. Leon Van Week as makeup artist. Shelton Ways as casual makeup artist. Colleen as special makeup effect artist. Christine Wheeler as hairstylist. Victor Javier Bernard, promo makeup artist. Helen McLarakis as makeup artist. Daniel Penthoxy as makeup artist. Gard Southland as gold maker and lab technician. Alistair Mori as prosthetic makeup artist. Gross special makeup artist. David as makeup effect. Marina Weber as hairstylist. Welra Vardica as senior prosthetics. Clay Wald as hair designer. Brian Van Dorn as life casting OD Studios. Brady Stone as makeup artist protest. Alan Smith as makeup artist. Gene Savage as hairstylist. Shan Riggs as prosthetic sculptor. Angel Cox as prosthetics. Paul Pettison as personal makeup artist. And Toshia Pappas as additional hairstylist. Tissa Natali as hairdresser. Anita Morgan as hairstylist. Mel Makesh as special makeup artist. Damian Martin as pathetic supervisor. Elisa Langton as additional makeup artist. Terrian Collard as pathetic assistants. Alan Joe as pathetic makeup artist. Emily James as special makeup artist. Matt Horney as makeup artist. Robin Mara Hatcher as special makeup artist. Veraine Henman as additional hair. Sanders as senior pathetic artist. Gran Farley as prosthetic artist. Natasha Dutit as makeup artist. Adriana Torius as additional makeup artist. Rick Conley as additional makeup. Kylie Clark as hairstylist. Carol Cameron as additional hair artist. Laura Jade as hairstylist. Catherine Wiggs as hairstylist. Alan Bors as special makeup artist. Robika Ellen as additional makeup artist. Now, let's talk about the art department. Christine Ederson as set designer. Gustavo Balboa as sculpting for men. Ron Beck as concept designer. Simon Bethune as weapons. Darren Beckran's conceptual artist. Annika Botha, lead man. Matt Bramley, head motorcycle mechanic. Grace Brown, props maker assistants. Rash Buckard, Art Assistants, Stephen Carroll, Sculptra, Andreo Chan, Assistant Art Director, or Rosklar, Constructional Coordinator, Paul Crane, Mechanic, Rehan Dawson, Senior Sanic Foreman, Tony Drew, Senior Model Maker, Melissa Ibers, Woodmaker, Gila Faber, Leather Worker, Paul French, Mechanic, William Jett, props as William John Jett, Tony Caroland, Armar, Australia, Brandon Gibb, Landed Head Carpenter, Salvia Cross Background Artist, Jane Fletke Proper Maker, Maximus is Action Vehicle Workshop Coordinator, Australia, Gordon Hogick Head Woodmaker, Nathan Victory, Honey Hog Sanic Rabba, Hograph Art Department Accountant, Brandon Jack Greens for Man, Maximilian Cancel Antset Scenic, Greeks like Man Designer Coordinator, Tim, Logland Optional Health and Safety Senior First Aid, Peter Maltisha Props Buyer Build and Dean's Mary Set Dresser, Anglo Mustasha First Assistant Property Maker, Tim Mika Prop Maker, Mark McKingley Head Mechanic, Karis McMahon Sculpture, Gary Middlewick Set Dresser, Cameron Muller Props, Corel Narita Props, Nico Solvian Visual Development Artist, Daniel Palmer Art Department, Lawn Pile Action Vehicle Mechanic, Yuri Parsi Assistant Standby Prop Sydney, Reacher Pitch Visual Development Artist, John Rann Constructional Manager, Andrew Record Auto Electrician Fabricator, Andy Robinson Action Vehicle Scientific, Alex Ross Set Builder, Darren Rossell Woodmaker, Ivan Shepard Concept Artist, Stanisi Sims Production Technology Manager, Nick Simoleon Action Vehicle Manchanik, Coresto Stridham Art Department Coordinator, Leela Sanpol Set Dresser, Natalie Tadar Art Department Accountant Pre-Production, Harrison Torpy Set Deck Runner, Jacob Oshibert Morvey Scapter, Gary Waker Action Vehicle Assistance, Tony W. Steel Trade Assistance, Adam Whitley Set Sculper, Lauren Wilt Action Vehicle Coordinator, Miguel Wolf Set Finishers, Eric Zive Props, George Zamd Standby Art Director, Randy Ederson Assistant Sorbeck Artist, Start Russell Props, Grant Freeton Chris Artist, Joshua Zangler Carpenter, Vanessa Younger Art Department Coordinator, Robert Wood, Nalper DeWalvey Williams Props, Nikki Wishman Assistance Constructional Coordinator, Jacob Veer Sculp Assistance, Jean Vajes Scenic Assistance, Tehran Arsham Assistance Director, Anika Ventenrow Constructional Coordinator, Bryce TB Auto Vehicle Coordinator, Marcus Taylor Action Vehicle, Mechanic Sharisa Suppressa, Standby Props, a Slickstrom's Action Vehicle, Mechanic Brandon Smithers Construction Manager, Peter Siddell Parkstick, Mark Sexton Lead Story Pack Artist, Amelia Rocks Art Director Set, Dressing Cameron Rock Action Vehicle Mechanic, Gene Rigby Carpenter, Charlie Ray, Supervising Art Director Ronald Ramita, Weapons Leading Hand Peter Pound Principal Vehicle Designer, Christian Peach Concept Artist, Nick Palmer Running Buyer, Andrea Orland Property Master, Raynell Set Finisher, Goff Naylor Picture Vehicle Supervisor, Neckler Mustock Props Buyer, Peter Malik Workshop Manager, Brody Mlan Buyer Dresser, Moorcrower Props Weapon, MRA Bike Matashi Sanic Painter, Chris McCravich Set Assistance Designer, Cameron Manuel Action Vehicle Mechanic, Myro Maida Concept Art Department, Cherished Action Vehicle Welder, George Cotlin Set Dresser, James Johnson Action Vehicle Mechanic, Joel Leverson Art Department, Peter Harden Hedge, Greensman Axel Hoban Set Dresser, McCain Henry Senior Woodmaker, Mark Harmon Dresser, Rocky Gomar Action Vehicle Mechanic, Marco Gaddity Fabrication Foreman, Catherine Guiney Set Finisher, Berman Workshop Consultant, Miguel Collia Action Vehicle Mechanic, Devilar for Action Vehicle Coordinator, Lurer Finn, picture vehicle buyer. Amanda Annie Smith, post-production assistants. Maxine Denate, art coordinator. And Ryan Telton, assistant set decorator. Scott Coy, action vehicle mechanic. Paul Condra, concept artist. Joe Cash, props. Rory and Boner, head mechanism. Martin Bravish, headist artist. Danish Brown, workshop manager. Medbach, domestic. David Bone, carpenter. Grant Bain, props. Shane Bennett on set dresser. Zin Blay, leather worker. Marco attention set designer. Now let's talk about the special effects. Band special effect technician. Matt Pelton, armor supervisor, meta workshop. Norman Bailey, special effect buyer. Kevin Berzer, senior special effect technician. John Parkridge, special effect technician. Brendan Barry Brown, special effect technician. Aeon Cox, special effect senior technician. Jabin Dlon, special effect supervisor. John Fabros, special effect technician. Tatter for special effect technician. Dean Franklin, special effect technician. Rob Gill, workshop supervisor. Rob High Onset supervisor. Rick Hui, lead special effect technician. Golem Johnstone, special effect technician. Jim Lang, breakfast coordinator. David McClaw, special effect technician. Phil Mlon, senior effect. Tim Midpel, senior special effect technician. Oriente Mororo, special effect technician. Dan Oliver, special effects supervisor. Rocky Praise, special effect. Well, Papa Tranion, special effect. Simon Cohen, senior protection. Tetrian, special effect. Jason Smith, special effect. Arthur Spector, special effect. John Van Poel, special effect. Ivan Jensen Van Rocker, special effect. Matt Ward, special effect. Andy Williamson, special effect supervisor. Grant Benley, head of production. G. Moan, special effect technician. Barry Tampson, special effect. Jason Dodger, special effect. John Unjoperi, special effect. Tim Whitley, special effect. Paul Vaughn, senior special effect. Thomas Vanzen, answer supervisor. Tony, senior special effect. Al Simon, special effect. Ruggy Rizzo, fabricator. Paul Roden, special effect. Doll Prestige, production manager. Sativ Platt, senior pick. James Paul, senior special effect. George Oram Alfred, special effect. Dodge Maham, senior special effect. George Mbeki, senior special effect. Jasmine Leaford, special effect. Sharon Jordan, special effect. Miguel Max Hooks, special effect. Leo Henry, protection. Sevenhead, special effect. Oliver Guy, special effect. Darren Frank, special effect. Lord Fine, special effect. Dave Everett, armor. Thomas Elcard Davis, special effect. Ron, special effect. Bruce Bright, special effect. Hard Black, special effect. Gavin Banja, technician. Harmon, special effect buyer. Casting department. Holly Bennett, extra casting assistants. Benton Rogless, assistants. Caterin, cast UK. Bernadette Carrot, casting assistants, UK. Bion, casting assistants. Nicolette Law, casting coordinator. James McBid, extra casting assistant, Australia. Susan Shoyle, casting assistants. J.P. Venterborn, extra casting. Natalie Well, casting associate. Milto Sakwal, casting Captown. Olga Miller, extra casting assistants. George Lolo, casting associate. Kat Leard, extra casting. Barbara Harris, ADR, vice casting. Joshua Regal, 5th extra casting. Terry Delo, assistal vice assistants. J.B. Weld, casting production. Stunts, Kate Adams, stunt driver. Lee Emerson, principal war driver. Yavish Atkin, stunt performer. Cameron Amber, stunt double. Again, Ederson, stunt double. Doggy Bailey, stunt driver. Matthew Beer, digital assistant manager. Neil Bennett, stunt driver. Arthur Breezen, stunt performer. Haugenstein Blonde, stunt performer. Darmote Morgan, stunt driver. Yolamoon Bernade, stunt performer. Chapistano Corriere, stunt driver. Glenn Show Stunts. Jared Cohan, stunt performer. Andy Bree, stunt performer. Pow Doll, stunt performer. Mike Donen, utility stunts. Kelsey Egan Stunts, utility stunts. Kim Fai, utility stunts. Brandman Stunts, double. Sam Fors, stunt rigger. Gary Ferry Stunts. Brose Garland, stunts driver. Lime Gerland, stunt performer. Dan Grant, stunt driver. Scotty Grokey, stunt driver. Tag Griffith, stunt driver. Nigel Harbage, stunts. John Henley, safety supervisor. Daniel Himshot, stunt double. Natasha Hopkin, stunt double. Rossley Ingrad, stunt performer. Alex Johnson, stunt. Gary Kingsman, stunts Nathan Lawson. I'm Levi Tory Lunch, Kobe Mickey Motorcycle, double Masali Markala, Edro Marquez Align, Marks Josh Macrana, McShowie Stunts, Roland Melbury, stunt driver Ola Miller Stunt, performer, stunt performer. Greg Morgan, stunt performer. Ron Morgan, stunt performer. Ananiel Muller, stunt double. Talana Moana Nikora, stunts. Noy Morris, stunts. Stefan Emtok, stunts. Marcos Mahatra, stunts performer. Satan Mulgar, stunt performer. Now let's talk about the additional crew of the Mad Max Fury Road. Iram Abraham sat medic Zainad Eder. Traffic Assistance Director Hilton Offrey Electrician Press, Umair Abraham's driver, Lee Alexander Transportation, Albany Asher driver. Joash Picture Cars, Henry Dre, Transformation Manager, Karen Fifth, driver George Miller, Gatalog Garup, driver Ashley Joffrey, driver Lon Kion, Star Trailer Darren Lomi, Transportation Coordinator Larvida Villagers, Mace Transportation Coordinator, Tumi Obak, Assistance Unit Manager, Alan Rajan Hrani Transportation Coordinator, Brad Sunders Action Vehicle Transportation Foreman, Shelley Sweetname, Driver Cost, Paulo Webb, Transportation Captain Victor Field, Mechanic Luke Wickerson, Unit Captain Adam Whitley, Mechanical Doctor Terrace Taylor, Driver Charlie the Jana, T. Singh driver cast as the Jana Singh, Jim Robinson Production Driver, Transportation Danny Pitchbell, Swing Coordinator Colin McGee, Facilitation Manager Vare, King Driver, Tom Hardy, Harry John, Driver Cost as Aaron Branhead, Claire Gazip, Driver Ken Fletcher, Driver Co-Coordinator Clinton, Do Action Vehicle Buyer Stephen Day, Transportation, Captain Ronnie B., Driver Analyze Andre's Action Driver Roger Abraham, Transportation Coordinator. When I saw the trailer of Mad Max Fury Road, I was positive it would be one I could not see. I don't like violent films, and it like a glory violent mess. However, I always go through my process I describe for relating movie content in How to Be Mary Kay Movies. I look at reviews that details content summarize on Screener.com and ask friends who have seen the movie. To my surprise, I found it to have virtually no profession and not to be as valid as I anticipated. It is an R, but most of this more likely like Volance. Some nitty and record battles convince it was within my comfort level. I decided to go check it out. It's a very tricky movie to review because it does. With trying to be masterfully well, I don't know what that can be with such a masterwork in your cup of tea, is another question. It's currently not a movie I will be for currently rewatching, but I did think it was a good and engaged me more than I would have guessed. All in all, it's a success, and I can see why many people love it. I have not seen the original Mad Max movies because I always figured they were too valid, so perhaps I will give them a watch. The Mad Max doesn't have much of a plot. It's one action sequence after another. It does not try to have symbolism or a puzzle like a Newland film might have. It doesn't have a strong lead character like a Blood film. The title is perhaps a misnomer because Mad Max has only a few lines of dialogue, and it's a summer play with Charlize Theron and others. Basically, the plot that does fall starts with setting it, is Desert Boss, a couple world that is ruled by a man named the Immort. Joe Max has been resisted in the Force to be a blood bag of the War Boys, played by Nicholas Hall. Chairstone is Ferosa was abducted 5 of Jaw's wife's car the Breeders. The rest of the movie is Max Ferosa and crew getting chased by Jew and having a test battle with each other. Each of the cars is so immigration with one even, being a giant speaker system with the guy playing an electrical guitar. There are scars that have been poured for people to swing on to other cars. There are rigs with gasolines and other covers and spikers. It keeps the action exciting because you don't know how the car works with and how fight will play out. For not speaking much, Tom Hardy is good as Mad Max, but the movie doesn't give you a lot of time to contemplate his character. I can't even imagine how far it must to be a short A movie like this. With all the dust and dirt, he is convincing as the strike anti-hero. The CG is kept to a minimum and at least appear to have a lot of practical effect. The stunt work and flawful. No matter how much Hardy ended other of their own stunts, whatever the percentages by professional, you definitely cannot tell it feels a real, which we have not seen an action film in a long time. I loved how much Matchmel in female character. It reminds me a little bit of Emery Blunt in The Age of Tomorrow. There are not glitches where women are damagingly complex, especially for the kind of movie. Charlize Theron is amazing. She is tough but is hard, and there is a moment that is completely devastating for her, and she sails it. There are different kind of women, old woman, young women, pregnant women, and they all deafy female tropes. The last thing I expected in a movie like this is an awesome group of women, and it definitely helped sell me on the film. His Brian is good as the villain in Morton Joe, but most of the credit has to go to his costume and mask. There is such attention to detail, the amount of time that must have been, since to get teeth right, skin layered, and dry lips cracked. Everything covered is, dust is mind-blowing. The makeup on the War Boys, including Necro Course, is very convincing. They are Dan-washed to believe if they are obedient servant Jaw, they will achieve immortally to the gates of heaven. Mad Max Puri Road is not a movie that gives the audience much time to breathe. There is very little dialogue, and I feel like kind of execution by the end of it. But then again, I feel like I was trying to do something completely different and new. And from a comic book, guys, like the George Miller, it makes sense. It primarily a sequel. Spark List. Still, I pushed me to be limit above car. Beta sequence. Who know I had a such limit. I'm a little surprised is to unbelievably loved, because I think a few people might be bothered by the thin plot and leak of character development. I guess they just don't accept it. It a testing creature. Across Miller's soft landscape. As a reflection of more desperate times, Miller has updated the needs of his future world. From comrades like oil to poor survival, Max has been remedied as a fighting driving machine, a man who finds his own way moving forward in an attempt to outrun his ghost. Next is a brainwashed goon, a man-creature who believed that he will die and reburn after sacrificing himself for a trip to Valhalla. Max eventually steps into the role of the action hero, but is one of their most daring moves. Miller gives the weight of the narrative to Fioa, a woman who holds on to the only thing that could possibly give her hope in this planet world, the next generation. Theron does echoably the best work for her career here, artfully conveying the drive in Ferosa's soul in a way that fuels the entire film. She does more with a scaring stare or Blend's jaw. The most accurate is good, with a page of dialogue, and one should not undervalue the underpower message at the heart of the film. A slur author of the Vagina Mule consulted with M on the script, which suggests that women as the creature of new life will in heredity always be the gender that holds hardest on to hope for the future. Ferosa looks at the ecstasy of the male leadership around her and decides enough is enough. When one of Fioa's W goes into labor and still defends herself and her yet-to-be-born child after being shot no less, it's hard not to see Fury wrote as an answer to the mock nonsense that so often defines the action gender. But none of that showed remotely impels that the action here is lost in the message. The pacing, the sound design, the editing, the music, and some of Joe's Freaky, who plays drums and electrical guitar during the action, and even the emotional stakes and all are far above average that they make just about any other car chase movie looks like a frequent Sunday diamond by comparison. The first day's inferior as Joe's men catch up to Fioa, and her precious cargo is one of the most recoverable action sequence in the film history, and that's really just a warm-up. It's no extra-ative to say that if you think something in Fury Road is the most breathing action stunts you have seen in J, wait a few minutes to see something better. This is a movie where you keep thinking that it's reached its apex, and then in expelity that moments is left behind in the dust. From the very beginning, Miller and his team do something that so many other filmmakers failed to do. They define the geography of their action rather than merely ling the camera around in the vain hopes of creating tension. They constantly give the viewer overhead shots and clear physical dimension of what's happening and where we are going, and then they blow it all up. There are dozens of crashes, explosions, and flying bodies in Fury Road, and yet the piece never gets repetitive, especially as the emotional stakes increase with each sequence. Miller knows when to let the piece cost when it needs to, which is rarely, and then he pushes the pedal down and posters you to your seats. Mad Max Fury Road is an action film about redemption and revelation, never content to merely repeat what she done before. Even the first three Mad Max have very distinct personalities. Miller has redefined his vision for the future yet again, vibrantly imagining a world in which men have become the pawns of insane leaders, and women hold ferociously onto the last footage of hope. Fury Road would be remarkable enough as a poor technical accomplishment, a film that laugh in the face of blockbuster CGI RGs, with same of the best editing and sound design the gender has ever seen. And yet Miller reaches for something greater than technical prose. He holds aloft the action templates that he created with The Road Warrior and asks that Hollywood should not have been copying it for the past 3 decades. They should have been building on it. Fury Road is a challenge to a whole generation of action filmmaker arguing them to blue its argent past into the gender future, and like Miller try their hardest to create something new. The first time I walked out of the streaming of Mad Max Fury Road, I felt shell-shocked. In some ways, Fury Road is everything I expected. It is often cohesive, while fury is loud and intense. But these things are not enough now. In 2 decades plus aftermath of Terminator 2, Judgment Day, and the steady scamming summer posts that have followed, I feel despised to the capture generation and often trial destruction that's defined the arena. These kind of movies has operated, and it's not I don't enjoy them, but my capacity of surprising is difficult to stare. It turns out the vision and sheer direction O City can stare that capacity just fine. Mad Max Fury Road issue a sequel to the original 1979 film, and it follows up, but it appears free of much in the ways of obligation to fiction or canon. You don't need to have much of the time to grow the promises of this new film. The homanure, along with the helping of past peak oil and weapons of mass destruction, that human nature along with the helping of peak oil, he based the word, leaving an artificial posit in its lake. Water as carrier and gasoline, and the injury-rigged vehicle at roar is strolled everything. The Rector Max is a non-survival ling in the wasteland where the film doesn't mice word script pages before he is captured and he is made a human blood bag for the Minions immortal Joe's most accomplished field commander has betrayed him. Mad Max Fury named Best Films of 2015 by worldwide critics even before its release. A reaction to Mad Max Fury, Rose's Panty 2, the films was an action masterpiece that ranks among directors George Miller's best works. However, parliamentary response to upcoming release can often be misleading. But then the franchise board sequel hit theaters. To say that Mad Max Fury Road has been flooded with critical acclaimed and as overwhelming warm response by audience would be an underestimate. Now, the film features Storm Hagen in the role as a scene. Stealing turned by Charlize Theron can add one more accomplished to its phenomenal critical run. The International Federation of Film Critics has selected Miller's Mad Max Fury Road as the best film of 2015. Awarding is the organization's annual grant breaks. History dates back to the 1920s, which section is the 50s. Nation from all across the world in an open poll. Its 493 members nominated films released for the award and the select from 4 finalists. The other 2015 film that were under consideration were soon the session Son of Soul and Jaffard panel. Taxi Miller will be acknowledged at the obnomony of the 3rd San Sabure Film Festival later this month, where Mad Max Fury Road will be screened since its introduction in 1999. Previous receptionist of the FIP XE Grad Mix has been included. Filmmaker like Jan Lowenheiken, Paul Thomas Ederson, Joffer Banchi, Pedro Almara, Nori Belgosile, and Richard Linkler. That's quite an accomplished group. And given the whispered love Miller's most recent film has seen, it's not surprising to see Mad Max Fury Road on the receiving end of such recognition. After all, the film has been universally praised for its imagination, practice, effect, strong world building, and start-out performance by the likes of Theon and Nicholas Hoult, plus the fact that much of its running time release and visual storytelling likely translated into more internationally accomplished, as evidenced by talk of a Solence card of the film making its way to Blu-ray. Needless to say, we are right. The FIPCSI, on the one, having already declared Mad Max Fury among our packs for the best film of the year so far. We are hoping all the love will motive Miller to start work on the planned follow-up to the chapter of Mad Max story. You don't just watch Mad Max Fury Road, you rock out to it. If you are released the Mad Max series, your heart will leap in Mad Max Fury Road for the first time. A vague made of Lefto. It's a signature move by director George Miller, who gets scary claws and says, "Eat my dust." That does taste him good. The majority of sequel have no reason for being apart from sequel money. But Watching this fourth Mad Max, I could sense after roughly 0.001 second that the 70 years old as director has been reviving his engine for a long time, itching to get back to the backdrop and deliver even wilder automatic meme. After all, his last two films, Happy Feet and Happy Feet 2, centers on animated dancing penguins. He has some serious punk credit to restore. As you no doubt know from all the buzz, most critics thinks Miller he has scared back in the stum, and they have given him a welcome. This gives me feel happy. The man made Mad Max to fully rode Lenore's Island, and especially, babe, Pig in the City, which is like Gerard's Web, related by Deakins, was a sequel. A box of his megabomb and a film starring a pig. It has never gotten its due. And Mad Max Fury Road is certainly a blast and a half. You don't just watch it, you rock out to it. How satisfied you'll be after all the wows. And he will depend on how fine you are with the film that starts in the middle of the story. And basically a long chase. I saw it twice and liked it. Vastly more than second time around when I'd adjust my expectation and had my bearing from the get-to-go. Then it becomes about tagging the spectralist, not to mention the hilarious sexual politics. This is not, it should be said, a reort. It's the same Mad Max post-Thunderstorm, now played by Tom Hardy. Mel Gibson, having judged to old and more reported to generally made to continue in the series that launched him to Storm 36 years ago. Mad as fire and plugged, said Max in voice over standing on a cliff at one with the peasant post-apocalyptic wasteland, his face hidden by a storm of healthy hair. He storms a big boot down a scarring lizard, snatched it up and shows it in his mouth. Crunch a blur of image and walk in his inner life. Bombs bodies and killing of the wife and child. The little girl caused to him in visions which struggles, because I remember his child being a toddler and a boy. But it was a long time and many bodies ago, and I might be wrong. Or maybe she's not his child, but a short of MSC from the world of child spirits. Miller does a cool struggle up his funhouse effect with a little guard's face, now flesh, now born, now flash again. Max finds Light M to be emotionally dead, number to the cranking, but his puppet keeps jolting back to life. The prologue in which Max is chased, captured a toss branded and put in a cage by riders from a towering citadel in stunning well done, particularly if you see the film in 3D, which Miller uses like a macro rings master, chucking arrows, bones and part of cars and bodies at you. This citadel, known far and wide as a citadel, is provided by Immortan, Joe Angley Defoe's tyrant, who stands high above the sheeple, promising them immortal life in the Katasar, while Hala will taunting them for their dependence. He makes them beg for water. Actually, everyone in the citadels is singly dysfunctive landscapeshu, takes the uranium cake. His flesh is mortal and covered with jihad stuff in a steel mask, notable for its needle set of coppers. He looks like a warting shear on head, stopped with a white fright wig. This is all awesome, but actually had a hard time getting past and due and into the movie. Max is not just emotionally remote. He mutters with dirt and keep in shadow. He's chained to the front of a truck, everything below his eyes concealed by a steel face catch. It's mightily per se that here in the Dark Knight rises as actor, which may be the most fascinating. The sage in movies spends so much time behind a mask. You get a lot from those eyes which signal sadness and discretion, but the lips are where it's at. They are not just fashionably pillows. There's no brandy property. Their signal is selling excess of emotions. They make you understand why the sounds like came out of his mouth are not always recognizable as English. That could do justice to that. Much feelings, casting Hardy as a man who sprawled his emotions and then covering his face and just made half. And how into Mad Max Fury wrote, I feel that if the nominal hero and I had not been properly introduced, there is of course another hero, and the story proper kicks off when a Morton showrider Fioa, played by Charlize Theron with a shaved head and one steel arm, sets off on a mission. In a remarkable vortex before suddenly changing course, Jaws checks on the breeders, but they are gone. He screams to heaven and order of his army. The chase is on. Wait, who is Ferosa? She has barely said a word. Who or what are the breeders? Who is the old women shrieking at Immortan Joe? By now it's clear the Miller statue throws you into the tedious action and only later shows you what's stake and why you should care. He thinks he is cunningly withholding major details to keep you guessing, but there is not enough information to guess from before he well cuts to the case. It's backward stories. Call me progress, but I like a little more context of my name, which is why I was more involved the second time when I and Ferosa know the breeders and know a bit more about why Max was on the front of a truck connected by the Ivy line to a skinny bad guy with a white face and branched eye strokes who looks on first and second glance see exactly like the Hund. Other skinny guys with white faces and blackened eyes, shocked but turns to be a major character. Card next necklace. Mad Max Fury Road wakes up dramatically speaking when Max and Ferosa meet with Rosangli stage fist cuts. At first, but soon with more affection, slightly more anyway. Both are hard, having been turned into leader by strategy. They are war of connections, and Ferosa is not too trusting of men to begin with. It's an extraordinary performance by Theon, who barely emotes, but whose heartless is broken by gates of guilt and grief. It's a mighty moment when, given terrible news, he stretches toward a titanic sand dunes. It rises from a no river, but nothing less would be worthy of her, and thanks to her, nice in despair at time, like that you might wish the film had been called Mad Magazine and had followed her from the start. It's a woman-centric mover Fossa is fleeing across the wasteland in search for a matricial ashes. She caused a green place for many mothers, and those breeders turn out to be a pampered hirezo of below-model types. One white blonde, one red, and one tall and black-hired on smaller and more rashly exishot tasking with bearing a Morton Joe's healthy children. Why a group of women are so skinny? They looks as if they are pitch of the side of running away from lake of food. Should be so if V wantily desirable in a time of sickness and starvation in a misty but not really much of one, given the high level of MO on display. Maybe the best visual joke in the movie is when Max stretches out of the desert and beholds them for the first time shimmering in the heat. Rosie, Horrington, Whitley, Zoe, Gravity, Abil, Gottlieb, Eaton, and Rally of Skimpy, shorty, filmy dresses, hing on another of lyrics, semi-slow motion. Mad Max Fury Road is actually full, brilliant visual jokes. It's dessert, a mythic stage of a pump roco, critics of freaks. Behold the great pile of steering wheels on which he bought various descents. Each man bring his own way with revenge as if exemplar. There's a little tree in the middle of the desert that look like it's waiting for wood aid and a straw gun. The sight of a hop-dozen auto bongo drummers on the back of the war is a merely setup for the revelation of the moxed heavy metal rocker guitarist tried to befront his instrument bling frames at moment of the peak bloodist. The authors of the Dom 90 would be pleased. Miller has incorporated his magician into the action and the Klimek high-speed rod battle var, bend in and out of the frame, throwing bombs and snatching up women. It's as if you had smoked weed and started watching on Old Western, and shootingly the great Cho-O turned into a truck, full of supermodel and the charging engine vampire acrobat. The knowledge that the vampire acrobat are mostly real-time and moving really fast, instead of is a computer adds expersionally to the VTF content. Miller's clearly fit. He needed to rise the stakes atop himself in Mad Max Fury. Road and the Road Fury is indeed packed with multiple crazy, funny variables. But at the end of the road, I have to admit that I prefer the cleaner, sharper climax of the Road Warrior, which has on CUI watch over jewel things in the clutter. That said, Miller has a trick up his sleeve that he didn't 3 decades ago granular on motorcycles. It turned out that what compelled him to make his 4th Mad Max was the notion of the Natricting Society for removed from the Grastique stat of male barrier, culture. The gorgily bar old women who roar out of the wasteland to Great Ferosa, and company tolerate Max and show some affection of KN, the bald mortality, ill-white painted war boy who longed to die in battle, but was so lovable clumsy that he wound up on the side of the girls. But these stuffed old birds don't want or need men. Those disease-carrying homage who turned a word that was once a garden into a nuclear wasteland. Also, the old ladies gaze on those cut little model as if would be really nice to cult. Up with them under the stars. It's a wonderful joke that so-called men's rightly groups have expressed outrage over Mad Max Fury, wrote so wonderful that I suspect the studies of cooking up the controversy. By its I didn't know that such morons actually exist in their eyes, Miller's has committed an unforgettable since by appreciating their cultural space to promote feminism. He has made a movie with more amazing motorcycle than a biker's really, and more high-decel smash-up than a monster truck even has. He has stuff. Into prequel stories alongside it. One followed Max and is dubbed The Wasteland, while Ferosa tell the origin of Charlize Theron's Imperator. The prequel would itself spend years in development hell, but sadly Ferosa M. Saga was a box office bum. The film is doing well-earned pod, but it feels like another outing in the series is a long way off, regardless of the tepid box office. Fossa still leaves a partly positive critical reactions, with Anya Taylor-Joy being praised after her turn as the lighter character. It was so small task placing Chai's throne, but the transition from the prequel version of the character to Fury Road feels widely seamless. Chair's throne appears at the end of the Fossa, reusing a deleted Fury Road scenes. So much of Anya Taylor joining in the prequel, she doesn't bear a huge physical resemblance to Theon's Fiosa. She restrained her long hair and only loses her arm towards the final chapter. Fioa. A Mad Max Saga's ending has the character shaving her head and becoming the character seen in the next Ventry. In the fatal short of Ferota, it's even possible to see a shot of Garai's throne, playing the role as the ritual Imperator, in scene leading Amort's vibes to the hiding in the wars. In the final scene is timely, and Ferosa's fate is hard to see, but brightening the image leave no doubt that Theon is playing the role. Of course, this is not new footage, but a deleted scene recycle from Mad Max Fury Road. This was confirmed on X as the movie storyboard artist Mark H. Sachs reveals this scene was filmed from Fury Road and purpose for Ferosa. While some fans must have loved her on to have surprised the role, this game is her only appearances in the film Why Throne Didn't Return for Fossa, Mad Saga. Charlize Theron as Fossa, looking up armed in the Mad Max Fury Road. After Mad Max Fury Road was released, there was already sales out for a sequel. Unfortunately, the whale turned slow on the next film. So by the time Ferosa was greenlit, Charlize Theron has aged out of being able to play a younger take on the Imperator. While Gigi Davies was considered, Miller explained to Empire via IG, and that he didn't feel that it was there to convincingly pull off the effect after watching other big movies try it. I began thinking, maybe we could digging to watch a really masterful filmmaker like Ang Lee and Martin. Scores doing Gimli. Man and the Irishman I saw that I didn't been liked, all wouldn't be watching it. Look how well the technology works. I would not have been persuading. Despite this, Miller expose AI combined. The facial features of young professor performer Ala Brawny with Anaya Taylor-Joy. This had the effect of making it feel like Brawny boards and no verbal. That's not exactly the first word we think of when we think all of modern-day movies. After all, there are people in movies, and people have a tendency to no verbalize even is just to a volleyball. But no verbal is exactly the word director George Willard uses to describe a movie in an interview in the DVD extras. People obviously speak in the movies, he says, but they only speak when it's absolutely necessary. So, if the movie doesn't have a lot of taking, how we can follow the story? Typically, movies rely on ample dialogue to build their characters and provide exposition. For the storyline, it's a relatively nonverbal movie. We viewers don't have the resource. Instead, Miller release on visual storytelling almost everything we need to know. We can glean with her eyes if we know more where to look. Acting without speaking, allow Tom Hardy to explain we are acting in a move that is visually driven, as if we are watching with the character death by seeing them go through one physical limit after another and how it affects them. It was a very difficult story to tell when he meets, in the sense the characters in Fury Road don't go around talking about his feelings and explaining their thoughts. We are left with their behavior, their actions, body language, and decisions to determine what's going on in their heads. They tell the story through his physician's day. Looking for a great example for the technique, look no further than the scene when Max arrives at the war and first meet Fioa and the wives. He hardly sees a word. After all, he's half gray from years of wandering the desert. Instead, he gets his matches across his wills and his facial expressions, which is all the more impressive constration. Most of his face is headed by the muzzle. We see confusion in his eye when he sees his brayers, and particularly when he sees them remove chesty belt. We know he's thirsty because when he sees the water, he licks his lips. We see he senses Fossa in a threat because he has Dag bring him the belt cutters to remove the chain that attached him to Cayenne. And we know that all despite the fact that as this moment he speaks a grand total of word, water, and you. But of course, visual storytelling is not just about the actor do it, about the way he word looks. And the literary does contribute to the overall picture. For example, the fact that the schemics, called Decorate Everything, including the bodies of those who do not, is Spiding tell us the motor juice power in both violent and absolute. For more on this, he sample and drops. Aids from visuals and storytelling footy, Road makes out of a few other narrative drops. Brief drone writing flashbacks spot in our understanding of Mac's madness and also hit a dark past. His voice of narrating at the beginning, couples with audio sniper, gives us all the exposition we need. The word has gone to port and Max is struggling to survive. These narrative drops don't define the movie or create any sort of overarching framework. They are simply utilized, written along the storytelling of remain largely visual while delivering the audience. Important information is an artful subtitle way. Mad Max Puri wrote in starting emails. Fioa takes a turn from her expected route to drive the vortex full of water women and gasoline in a different directions. Immortan Joe gathers his forces and pursues his with Max mode. Involves as a blood bag because he is a universal blood donor. Martyred on the pro of the war by Max pursued vehicles as Sandstorm lies between Froa and escape. First plot point passing through the Sandstorm neck vehicle is destroyed, and because they are chained together, Max hauls him towards the war intended on stealing it from Fossa. He sees the real price in Morton Joy V, but he just sees them as obstacle to this theft and escape. Ferosa's skills switch prevent him from stealing the Vic, so he reluctantly agrees to escape together with Ferosa and the other women, the Slamrate Asgard and others. The chain with Nu is cut away, but Nexus pursues on foot. First point, Ferosa drives to the mountain pass, where he has an agreement with a biker gang to collapse the passage in exchange for the full tank of gasoline. She promised to be alone without pursuant, but they can see 3 war bands coming from way. A fight break out, and Fossa depends on Max to drive them out of there. The bikers gang destroy the pass to block Joyce's army temporarily, but attack the war eggs as Ferosa attempts to escape without paying them. Important Joe army catch up after Nu hopes abroad and pulls the Androlic flaw line to slow down the war. One of the wives, the Splendid and Gods, pregnant with Jaw's child, falls out and is run over by Jose's vehicle. Nex realizes his failure would make him mad accord to Jaws putting himself worth into question, not allowed to her's promise after all life in Valhalla. As Joe stops to Mars planet and tries serving their children, the war egg escapes. Fioa explained to Max they are escaping to the green place where he grew up and was stolen from as a child, where women were free. Capable approach. The despairing ducks comfort him, and they form a bond. Second pinchment. Joe's ally, the bullet farmer, pursue with his own army without Joe at night, when the Warks come to a water place in a stuck in the mud, just as the bullet farmer catches up. Nox helps to free the truck while Max and Pharaohs fight. The army makes attempts to shoot the bullet farmer searchlight, but misses. He hands his rifle to Fiosa, who aims to shooting the bullet farmer in the eyes, who is now blindly shooting instead and killing everyone, even the wives. Nox is one of the engine is down and needs to be cooled so he can get it working. Mac's growing respect for Ferosa leads him to attack the bullet farmer on his own, telling Ferosa to drive further on and leave him if he's not back by the time the engine cools. Max slaughterers a bullet farmer army and come back with a case of weapons and bullets. Fioa recognizes a landmark and calls out to those she knows are watching, It's several women on motorbike the Babalini, those from her clean, who lived in with her at the green place. The dag learned from the seeds the bulbul, and he carries hopes for growing crops someday. Frosa discovers from then his swampy land where the drug got stuck was the green place, but it's contaminated and dying up. Fioa despairs, but they have water for 166 days. Philosopher decided to lead a conveyway across the wasteland in search or somewhere else. But Max stays behind initially, deciding to rather survive on his own after a flash of memory, back to what he lost and failed to protect the chases, and stop this conveyway and convince Fioa a trip across the wasteland is a hopeless plan and it would be better to fix the real problem. Go back and take over the citadel they escaped from with the help of the Bellini, because it has laws of clean water and kindi, which they can use to build a life and also save all those enslaved. By Joe, Max agrees to fight with them. The war exposes Joe's army and then pursue them back towards the boss. To annoying is captured. Many of the Babalini are killed. Ferosa stabs, but Chiru pretends to give himself to help, while Ferosa managed to kill a Morton Cho. The Dash saves the cheese of seeds. Next realizes he will not make it, so sacrifice her life to kill Jose Rectus and cut off pursuit by destroying the war rig and exploiting the gasoline in order to bring down the pass and block it. Max, Frosa, and the other drive off in Joe's vehicle safely. Frosa is dying. Max recognizes she is the leader of the Citadel, needs to live in freedom. Max gives Fioa a blood transfusion to save her life. The people at the city see Jaw's dead body and realize he's not immortal after all. They chant Frosa's name as she releases water to catch their thirst. With Ferosa fully in charge, Max slips away into the crowd. The story is far, far more stable than most realize. The key to understand is knowing it's about a man and a woman, going a non-romantic relationship built on trust and mutual respect. Max is not a side character as some people think. Max is the main character of the emotional journey. He changed the most and does in critical ways to affect the story. At the end of the E-Act, Fioa is a protagonist of the physical journey, but also the impact character that pushes Max to change. He changes from a man focused on his own survivor alone to one aging to scope everywhere to one willing to fight their enemies and let his allies escape without him, to one willing to purpose a better plan and help me. Fosa and Max grow to respect and trust each other simply by observing each other's actions. Once Max has Ferosa's trust, after discovering the green piece is no longer a visible option, she is willing to trust his judgment and listen to a new plan to return the Citadel. Solving their problem instead of fleeing from it, Max's star becomes so respecting of Ferosa that he sacrificed his own blood to save her life in a climatic moment. The story is about their relationship and what mutual respect and trust can do to build a created and free society, what people call a feminist film. It's not about hating men or attacking men. Feminism is about both. The theme of respect and trust between men and women and how that heals both. As you know, the new installment in Mad Max Ferosa, Mad Max: A Saga, is released. So what to remember from Mad Max Fury Road before watching Fiosa? Nearly 10 years after Mad Max Fury Road scored a spot in the canon of all-time great action movies. Australian filmmaker George Miller has returned with a prequel that transformed viewers back in the time in the wasteland, with Elena Brawny and Anaia Taylor-Joy playing younger versions of Cheryl Throne's character in Fury Road. Fedosa Mad Max Sarda in theater by 24. Francis Fioa, exception, from a prisoner of the warlord Dementus, played by Chris Hemsworth, to one of the first broad warriors serving under the tyrant Immortan, Joe in Ferosa, and the late T.K.I. Bryan in Fury. Wrote like Fury Road, FZA, take place in a post-apocalyptic ravaged by nuclear walk, fought over oil and other resources, despot ran with an iron fist, with the brutal remaining of civilization, while savage biker gang row the desert sanctuary for fuel and anything else they can find. As lord of the citadel of fortress built on top of the natural echo, for immortations outwater to a desperate populace, while he and his inner circle lie luxuriously above the ferry. He got off half-life war. Boys worship him like a god, ready to die on his behalf at any moment, while higher-rank officer drive Decker outworks across the baseline to trade water crops and other supplies for gasoline and ammunition at the nearby strong of Gastown at the Bullet Farm. Ferosa explores how it read Hero and Ross to rank of the Imperator and came to drive the war she uses to smuggle immortal just-prized female slaves, his so-called 5 wives, out of the city. In Fury, his water to remember from Fury Road and the Max universe as a whole, before seeing Fossa. What we already know about Fossa, since Miller had already developed an origin story of Fossa while making Fully wrote the 2015 movie, revealed a number of major details about her life leading up to that point in time. In order to tell the story of Footy Road, we had to understand everything about what we have seen on the screen. Not only the backstory of every character, but every props, every vehicle mirror said of this process. At Sandmakin 2024, we wrote the story of Rosa in the 15 or 16 years on her life before we meet her in Fury Road. We write a story about Max in the year before we got there, and so on. They ended up being a screenplay, and one was a novella. We did it just for the actor-s and gurus, so that they could understand it. We know that Ferosa was abducted as a child from a hidden matriarchal OS, known as the Green Place of the Many Mothers. A tribe of women also refers to as the Voani. Ferosa's mother died 3 days after she was kidnapped, and Fro spent the next 15 or soldiers fighting to survive and returned home. At Sad, during the time period she lost the majority of her arm and replaced it with a meated claw prosthetic in Fury Road. Ferosa makes our long-awaited breaks for the Green Place with Immortus wives in tow, only to run that the once protide land had sauces and the majority of the Velini were dead. Ferosa's created a mort in the process and setting in motion, and a new era in the wasteland as of young Ferosa, relationship with her copper Dementus. Hamza told IGN that his character views her as a sort of replacement of his dead children. We get a little insight into this backstory that he has a lost summer at will at some point. He said, "I think he sees a strength in her that is familiar and remind him of his old children. In his eyes, he believes that he is preparing her for the wasteland. He's trying to toughen her up." He says, however, doesn't see things the same way. According to Taylor Joy, "Does Fossa love Mantis?" She asked no. While the image of Russer directly per se given the timeline in Constitute Road and the original Max trilogy, the 2015 movie is made to serve as more of spiritual prequel to remove the first 3 movies in the saga. In 1979's Mad Max and 1982's Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, starring Mel Gibson as the Riddler Max, and set in the mid-1980s Earth, is still on the brink of total collapse at the starts of the first movie. A global oil crisis sparked facial and economic breakdown. In the second movie has crumbed, but the world has not yet been decimated. It's until somewhere between the image of the Road Warrior and 1985 Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, set around 15 years later at the nuclear apocalypse, takes place. However, a Mad Max Pre-Road comic book prequel series released to consummate with the 2015 movie, which recast Tom Hardy and Max, and it is hunted to take place around 2150. It gains a number of aspect and franchise in the new timeline. The Nicarapas took place after the image of the first Mad Max, with Hardy's Max having fled out into the wasteland as fallout and contemptation spread across the earth sometime after 2015. Going forward, Millett had says he'd interested in returning with the Mad Max universe with a film inly titled Mad Max The Wasteland, that would be tangly linked to Fury Road. Mad Max Fury Road Analysis. Today we launch a newbie weekly series in what we will being movie, currently in release. By to quiet the writing meant, I over 5 years ago watch movies, wrote scripts, write pages, and we will note which one comes first. Here are my reflection from the post about the importance of watching movies. To be a good screenwriter, you need to have a board explorer to the world of film. Every movie you see is a potential reference point of your writing. Everything from story concepts you generate, to characters you develop, to scenes, your constructs. Moreover, people who work in the movies business constantly reference existing movies when discussing stories throughout it. It's a short line, a way of getting across what the means our vision. But most importantly, you need to watch movies in order to get how movie stores work. If you immerse yourself in the world of film, it's like Road, written by George Miller and Brandon McGritty, and Nico, directed by George Miller, starring Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron. For those of who do not have seen the movie, do not click more. We will be dropping in major spoiler if you have seen Mad Max Fury Road. Invite you to join me in breaking down the movie. Maxie opened with a voice-over narrating that he was once a cop and road warrior, and is now trekking through the post-apocalyptic Australia, running from the haunting thoughts of his dead wife and child and the dead people he's encountered. Two lasers call them near Max, and he storms up it before eating it. He drives off and is quickly pursued by a group of sequencer called the War Boys, who are all paled and covered in blister due to radiation sickness. This caused Max draw the desert and cause him to crash before they capture him. In the ending, we see the whole group right backs in the direction of the Citadel. Joe sees them riding from the telescope, knowing full well what their plan is. He gathered his army and gives chase. The Boblini help fight back. The Valkyries shoot at the War Boys defending one of her own until she is run over. Max and Froza kill some of the War Boys, while Max gets Joe to kill the pupil leader by using him as a home sheet. The Keeper of the Seeds is also killed, which one of the War Boys scars her neck. Toss is captured by the Joe and held hostage. Fioa is impaled and gets Vaker as Jos and Rus gain momentism. Toss destruct long enough to give Ferosa an opportunity to hook Joe's mask onto the wheels of his car. She grows, remember me to him, as the wheels rip the mask and Joe's face off, killing him. The rig then heads towards the cannon with Rikas, still trying to kill the group. The women get off safely while N says goodbye to Capable and Savage against the can and sacrificing himself to kill Rectus and collapse the overpass to Putin and Joe's army. On the way back, the Citadel Ferosa lungs collapsed. Nearly Max punched a hole in her side to give her air.